about your own experiences?
Yeah, no problem. Hi everybody. My name's Dan Putnam. I'm a track athlete and I've been doing athletics for over 20 years now. Started when I was 13 years old, and now I'm actually approaching the Masters age groups now. I'm only about 2 seasons away from being a V35, which is quite exciting because Masters athletics I feel like it's coming on a lot in sort of the past decade, especially actually post-COVID. So it's sort of a really exciting part of my career to be looking forward to in the next couple of years. Obviously, being a track athlete, being a sprinter, you do face a lot of injuries. Like it is sort of a big part of sport, especially high intensity sport in sort of throughout my experiences. I've actually just recently recovered from a hamstring tear, which I'd done early Feb, and I'm sort of now just starting to run again 8 weeks later. So it's a sad part of the sport in many respects, because obviously in an ideal world, you'd just be able to train as much as you want. You'd be able to compete at every competition you want to compete at, and sort of reach the heights that you sort of dream of reaching, whatever your goals are. We've all got individual goals, but obviously you sort of want to get to that peak, and injuries do get in the way of that. But obviously throughout my career, I've sort of learn the best ways in which to cope with injuries, to sort of manage the mindset when you're injured, and to make sure that you're back on the start line as quickly as possible. So like just a few things that I've sort of picked up over the years. Like you've got your fairly generic sort of immediate response to injuries, which is more like your RICE protocols, like the ones sort of you're taught back in the day. So you're getting plenty of rest on it, making sure you're icing, compressing, elevating. And then you sort of move on to more of a controlled movement phase. So where you start to push the range of motion in the joint. So if I look at my recent hamstring injury, I couldn't just do leg swings after like a week of resting it. Like you need to slowly reintroduce the movements that will eventually get you back to running. One thing I found really useful for my recovery was isometric exercises. So for those who aren't familiar with isometrics, it's basically like applying force against a static object. So like you've got your concentric exercises, like your bicep curls. You've got your eccentric exercises where your muscles lengthening under strain. And isometric is basically you're working as hard as you can against a static force, but you're not actually moving it. And it's a really good strength exercise with sort of minimal risk of damaging, because there isn't the impact of the other 2 types of movements. So that I found that really important for me once I was a couple of weeks into the injury, to come back and just build that strength and build the confidence in sort of the injured area of the body. From there, I found that you sort of have a progressive loading phase. So what's really important when you're injured, and especially when things start to feel a little bit better, is not to assume that everything's fine and try and go straight back to normal. Like we always say that if you feel like you're back to 100%, give it another week, because it's too easy. Like there's still some vulnerabilities in there, and there's bits that like it's easy to skip those last few steps. So like the muscle could be 90 to 95% recovered, and then that last 5%, you skip that and you go straight back into the intensity that you want to perform at, you want to compete at, and then suddenly you set yourself back. Another thing I would say regarding setting injuries back and stuff to avoid is quite often when we rehab a certain body part extensively, you often have an imbalance in the body. So it's really important that when you do your rehab to work both sides. So when I tore my right hamstring, I was doing the same rehab for my left side as well, because in the past, I know that when I was younger, I had a lot of injuries. I had one that I remember really clearly in my left calf, and I made it bulletproof. So when I came back, it was stronger than ever. And then my right calf went within a month of me returning to sport. So I think in a lot of sports, where obviously you're relying on all muscles to play their part, it's really important to rehab and prehab all of the muscles so that you're balanced and you're equal going into training. One more thing I just wanted to talk about, I don't want to take up too much time, but is the psychological part of it, and the recovery from that. So obviously when you're on the sidelines and you're not able to train or not able to compete, it not only takes a physical toll, obviously, but it's a massive mental toll. Like quite often you see your peers, your rivals, they're out there, they're competing, or you see them training, like especially with social media these days, you get so many, you see people's highlights, right? So you go onto Instagram and you see the best parts of people's lives. You see them doing that session they're really proud of. You see them running personal best or achieving things in work or whatever it might be. You don't see necessarily the bad sides of things. So it's important to take everything you see on social media with a pinch of salt. Everyone has their own struggles, and not everything is always as glamorous as it looks. Equally, when I achieve the things that I want to achieve, I'd post that, and obviously people see that side of me, but people don't see me for 8 weeks not being able to do the training that I want to do. So it's really important for your mental health to stay engaged with the activity. Like, even if you can't, for example, sprint or run, maybe you can get on a bike and you can really push yourself on the bike and do some lactic sessions, or you can get on the rowing machine or something else that's non-impact, and you can get a very similar hit for the lungs and the fitness levels, so that when you do come back to running, you're ready to roll, So like, I think that's probably about where I should stop there, because I can obviously just keep going on about this, but the mental side of it for me is just as important as the physical side, and is something to keep track of when you're coming back from an injury, for sure.